That's good. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi. He's in a little bit of a costume today with his necktie and his little sparkly hat, his ear squish. Because we're getting close to Halloween, and I think it's a good time for us to talk about some Halloween precautions for your pets. And then the next time I see you, which I think will be Tuesday, we'll talk about dog Halloween costumes, because there's a lot to know about doing that. And my dog, this one in particular, wears a lot of costumes, and as you can see, doesn't mind them too much. Although I won't leave you in this hat too long because I know it squishes the ears. So the number one thing we need to look out for with dogs and Halloween, well, two things: food and people coming to the house, depending on your dog's temperament. So, even if you don't have kids, people have a lot more Halloween candy around the house. So many of us will buy a pack of those little Hershey's miniatures, maybe leave them on the coffee table. And a Labrador is perfectly capable of walking off with that bag of uneaten Hershey's miniatures and being very sick. We have to remember all the things that are toxic to dogs: grapes, raisins, sugar, very bad for them. Chocolate can be fatal. Xylitol, which is a fake sweetener in a lot of diet things, but also gum and a lot of other things, also highly fatal to dogs. So don't let your dog have any kind of Halloween candy. I mean, there's just nothing in any of it that is going to help your dog. And certainly all of it can kill your dog or make him very, very sick. So you must keep the candy out of the reach of the dog. So a lot of people may forget to feed the dog before the trick-or-treaters start coming. I highly recommend feeding your dog a little bit early on that day so that he is not only just eaten but satisfied, and his stomach is busy digesting his dinner, so that he does not have any interest in going over to the coffee table or the chair where you keep the treats by the front door or anything like that. You've got to keep your dog away from eating the Halloween candy. I mean, there's just nothing but trouble with Halloween candy and dogs, and that goes for cats too. A lot of people forget that some of those shiny wrappers on like the Hershey's Kisses are very appealing to a cat, and you do not want your cat to eat a Hershey's Kiss. So make sure you keep the candy out of the reach of the dog. The second thing to be cautious about in particular is people coming to the door. If your dog is not good with people, especially children, and children with things flapping and glowing and lighting up on them and, funny masks, do not subject your dog to greeting people at the door. Put your dog in another room. I recommend putting on some nice music. Bach is actually really good. It gets the right and left brain functioning equally. Oh, there goes our hat. And that helps induce relaxation. You can give your dog some of my beloved flower essences to help relax them on Halloween. And I suggest making him have like a little spa situation somewhere in a bedroom away from the trick-or-treaters. It's okay, the hat's still there. So it did come in pink too. We don't have a pink one. Anyway, make sure your dog is away from the trick-or-treaters. Now, this goes for all kinds of dogs. I mean, certainly we would think to keep our dog in another room if he was a little growly, uncomfortable, hiding from strangers. This dog loves people, loves strangers, but he barks and barks and barks and barks when particular kinds of people come to the house. And that's not good for anybody, and it could scare a child, and a child could say something to their parent that is not exactly true, and then you could be in trouble, for having your vicious dog, quote, unattended. So even if your dog is like mine, enthusiastic and barky, it's still a good idea not to have him out where people are coming continuously to your door if that's what happens in your neighborhood. The other thing to keep in mind is that sometimes dogs like mine are super friendly with kids, and you may want them to be able to greet the dog, but it's not in the best interest of the dog to be petted by 50, 100 different kids coming to the door. And these kids are going to be stressed. Their costumes are coming off. It's often colder that first night of the winter is starting to come upon us. I've always been amazed that I have these costumes with like barely anything covering me, and I go out for Halloween at the place where I used to go, and there's usually a good 30-minute wait, and I am freezing. It is way colder on Halloween night than it usually is other nights. So I actually bought myself a big velvet cape that can be part of 90% of my costumes, just because it was so cold waiting on those steps to go into that place, which is no longer there. So not a problem for me anymore. But it could be a problem also with your dog sneaking out the door, because you have people coming and going. And if you have children yourself, they're going to be letting the kids in and out. And let's face it, it's not only children. Husbands can let the dog out accidentally. So that's another issue. You don't want your dog to escape. And even if your dog is safely in another room, if you have several people in your household, I would make sure he has his collar on him with his name and, you know, his pet finder tag, because Tristan has got one of those, so that if he does sneak out, somebody can find him and bring him back. I mean, the good thing is if he sneaks out, there's a lot of people in the street and somebody may notice him and bring him home. But, you know, you've got to take every precaution not to have your dog be lost on that day, because there's often fireworks and parades and things that can really scare a dog that is not in his home environment if he does escape. So, you know, keep your dog safe. Keep him up in a room with quiet music. Feed him well before the people come. Keep your candy out of his reach. And make sure he's not scooting out that door. And, you know, I know people try to hold their dog on a leash when people are coming and going because they think it's fun for the dog, but it is not fun for the dog. I mean, a lot of our dogs live their lives thinking that they are protecting us, and having people coming and going to the door is unsettling to them. Even this guy who's super friendly. Where's your hat, honey? There we go. Do you want your hat back on? So we'll be back in a couple of days to talk more about dogs and costumes. I have a ton of experience with this. Since I was a kid, we've been dressing up our horses and dogs, and not in the way that lots of kids do. We never put dog clothes on our animals. They had their own clothes. So keep your pets safe on Halloween. Remember, again, if you have loud parades and things like that, you might want to especially think about giving them some flower essences, keeping them in a quiet place with some music playing. Some dogs like to just listen to a calming TV channel. They have all those music channels now. We all love the new age soundscapes. So you can put that on for your dog, but try to keep him safe on Halloween. It is not a time for your dog to be socializing. No matter how friendly and sloppy and loving of the kids your Labrador is, Halloween is a dangerous time to be a Labrador. You can escape, you can be scared, you can bark and scare a kid, you can eat something you're not supposed to eat, you can get lost. Lots of problems. So everybody have a good Halloween and keep your dog safe. And we'll be back to talk about costumes on Tuesday. Right, Tristan? How you doing with that hat? He says, oh, my tie's crooked. I don't look ready for office wear. You know what? He is all about the cranberry treats I get from my sister. They're called Fruitables. If you have a dog with any kind of urinary or bladder problem, I highly recommend getting those Fruitable cranberry treats. Tristan just loves them. He'll do anything for a Fruitable, almost as good as a duck, and much less stinky for mommy. Okay, we'll see you guys. Have a good weekend and stay dry. It's raining practically everywhere, except where there's fires. Ugh. All right, thanks for joining us.